First of all, guys, how are you?
Doing good. You know, it's been here for a few days already, and just getting acclimated to Europe.
Yeah, doing great. Happy to be here. A little bit of jet lag, but all in all, pretty psyched.
All right. Well, before we talk about your latest record, I'd like to go back to the beginning quickly. And I'll start with you, Mike. Do you remember the first album you ever bought?
Yeah, it's probably Double Vision by Foreigner. That's probably one of the first records I ever bought.
Do you remember why that particular record at that time?
The song Double Vision is actually, I don't know, the guitars, I like the way that guy sang. You know, I can't remember his name, but that was probably the first record I bought, I think. And you know, I was just getting into rock music, so you know, that was something that tickled my fancy back then.
And how long between that particular record until the harder stuff came in?
Let's say I was like 9. I was about 8 years old, maybe. So I would say maybe 3 years. I started dipping my toe into the pool of extreme music. Maybe like with the first band being the Bad Brains, you know, that I really was listening to and being like, wow, it's extreme. It's like the fastest thing I've ever heard. The song, the Pay to Come 7-inch, was like lightning fast, and that's grabbed me. And then Suicidal Tendencies and, you know, Black Flag, and then, you know, I've always listened to rock music, but once I started hearing punk and hardcore is when I knew that there was like another sort of layer of extreme intensity that I needed to tap into, and those bands sort of were the passageway into that world, for me at least.
Well, what attracted you to this intensity? Why did you find this appealing?
I've always been a very physical person, and I think like listening to like Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, well maybe not Black Sabbath, but Led Zeppelin, you know, Rush, Yes, Foreigner, those types of bands was more of like a cerebral sort of emotional expression. But then when I heard the Bad Brains, Black Flag, and, you know, hardcore bands like that, there was like an immediate sort of physical reaction to the music, and that I was able to combine those two worlds into like sort of reconcile them, and you know, that's primarily why I think I was attracted to the harder music.
And then Charlie, for you, was this appeal into harder or at least tougher music, was that the same for you?
I pretty much right off the bat, you know, with the exception of my dad's Creedence Clearwater records, I pretty much was right in with like Obituary, Chopped in Half, and a lot of those records, Suffocation, Death, you know. I was just really sort of enamored with the double kick work, you know, the really powerful blast beats and stuff like that.
And was this at an age as early as Mike's?
Probably not as early as Mike, maybe around like 12 or 13 for me. I really got sort of off on that foot, just kind of like checking out those bands and getting into it. And then when I got a little bit older, steal my brother's ID and go to the Roxy in Huntington and see all these bands, saw Machine Head and all these really cool bands that came through, and I've just really been into it. I mean, you know, my roads have diverged since then. I've gotten into like, you know, new music, like Stockhausen and Steve Reich and John Cage, and I went to conservatory and, you know, learned that stuff, and it kind of came full circle for me when I started the band Vora and then was asked to fill in for Tombs and then eventually join, and it's just, you know, it's been an amazing musical journey from that. So
because well, after discovering this music, you both went into music. Do you remember what compelled you to go into music, to play yourself?
What immediately comes to mind is I was watching USA Network's Night Flight, and the Go-Go's were playing, and I remember they had this like really heavy bass sound, and I was like, you know what, I don't think I'm talented enough to play guitar, so maybe I can play bass. Okay, so I had this whole thing about playing bass, but I never really got into playing bass. You know, they had big equipment, you know, it's like this big sort of statement to play bass. But I think that I just, you know, I don't like to settle. I like to always challenge myself, so I figured somebody with like virtually no talent like me to learn an instrument like guitar would be a challenge. So I just went ahead, picked up the guitar, and, you know, I think I do pretty good these days, a little bit.
And for you, because you say you went to conservatory, so you must have been quite adept at music?
Yeah, absolutely. I started playing drums at around the age of 5. I grew up in a really musical family. I idolized my older brother, so naturally drums for me was where I was headed. So and it was, it was jamming with my dad a little bit, and it was sort of, music was sort of spoon-fed to me. But I didn't realize how much I really loved it until I actually left home and started studying in conservatory. I was practicing 6 hours a day.
Right.
I really found my own personal love for it, which is, not like a lot of other people's. It's like, I might listen to one record for like 6 months and then nothing for a long time. So yeah.
Is there one in particular you're listening to now?
I actually really enjoy the new Yob. Has caught my attention. We had a chance to play with those guys in Brooklyn at St. Vitus, and they are like even better live. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. So I've really been digging on their record for probably about 8 months now. It's just like constant rotation for me. So I listen to the radio a lot too. So.
Well, we kind of have to fast forward here a bit, but you mentioned that they asked you to fill in. Had you heard about Tunes by then?
Oh yeah.
What was your first impression?
My first impression upon hearing like their first record, or
no, just the band in general.
I had Winter Hours when it came out. It was sort of like a really fresh take. It got me sort of like back into metal as far as that, because I had been off the grid with that. A lot of things have changed, but yeah, really dug Winter Hours, and obviously Path of Totality, and I was more than happy to fill in for Andrew and learn those parts, and just because the music is it's really rich, not only tonally but rhythmically. There's a lot going on, so naturally for me, being from a background of playing new music, like 7/8 and all these like weird different polyrhythms, I was like, this is great, I'd love to do it. So it was a challenge for me to learn that type of drumming, because there's a bit of grindcore, a bit of death, and a bit of black metal. So I like to throw myself in and just go for broke. So yeah.
And Mike, what did you hear in Charlie's playing?
Well, Charlie and I had actually been working on this project prior to this, and I remember a couple times we got together, just the two of us, and we were just jamming on some material that was like a little bit different than what we were playing in this project. And I was like, playing some double kick drum, some like kind of busier, like faster drumming, and I was like, at the time, Andrew's availability was becoming more and more limited, and I logged that concept away that maybe this might be a guy to ask to fill in. And and then I asked him, and it's worked out, and he formally joined the band midway during our last U.S. tour. Andrew, we're still great friends, but his life changed, and he had to change around his priorities, and there's a lot of personal demands placed on him now, and he couldn't commit to being in a full-time like touring band. So he actually, I think, didn't he help you a little bit with some of the parts, had some questions? And
yeah, I've actually I've never really formally met Andrew.
Okay.
But I Facebook friended him, and he wrote me back and asked if we knew each other, and I said, well, sort of, but not really. I mean, I've been to like 4 or 5 Tomb shows, I've seen you play a whole bunch, but we've never spoken in person. So I actually wrote him on Facebook several times. What do you do here? How do you go about doing this? Do you use 2 feet or 1 foot here? What kind of pedals do you use? It's like, and then it's just along the lines like we just kind of became just sort of like friends on Facebook a little bit, But I realized we also both have the same kind of cat. Right. We have a Russian blue. It's kind of weird in a way.
No,
but he was extremely helpful in the process of me, getting my hands on these records, because Savage Gold's a very busy record, drum-wise. He does a lot of amazing stuff on that. So I wanted to take it verbatim. I didn't want to miss a note. I wanted to like honor the writing in those songs just as they were intended. So.
Right. But has it changed? Because I imagine it has changed the dynamic of the band.
Absolutely. I mean, Andrew and I were the creative core of the band for many years, and that has shifted to me and Charlie writing a lot of the material, and our 5th member, Fade Kaner, who this is his first tour with us, and he's a synth player. So I would say the creative energy is maybe between the 3 of us, and we write we have like a lot of new material that we're working on, and about 25 minutes of tonight's set is going to be brand new material. This is like the third show we played them, so you know it's all sort of indicative of you know the creative process between the three of us, and you know maybe a new direction or an expansion of the sound, or you know trying new things and that you know that sort of stuff.